A man threatening to kill people at the Council on American-Islamic Relations is not unique in America these years, but one man's excuse for why he wanted to do it just might be. His name is John David Weissinger, and he pled guilty last year to making email and telephone threats to CARE's San Diego and Washington, D.C. offices. He pled guilty to hate crime allegations, making a criminal threat, and possession of an illegal assault rifle. He also admitted to sending CARE's Washington, D.C. office an email saying that he was going to come there with enough firepower to kill all of you. And he was found he was stalking sort of the vicinity of one of these offices. So what would cause a man to be that angry? Here is the excuse that his lawyer gave. Let's watch.
His attorney says he was drunk and depressed and overwhelmed with the Charlie Hebdo newspaper terrorist shooting.
It was after a week of watching Fox News over and over. The outrage.
The outrage.
The outrage.
If I had to watch it for a week straight, I would be outraged, but I probably wouldn't make terroristic threats. Look, we don't know at this point what percentage of people who watch a week straight of Fox will go on to make terror threats against Islamic organizations.
Well, he might be, but he's patient zero. I mean, clearly.
It might be spreading.
But it shows the power, obviously, of the media, and I'm not just saying because this is sort of this isn't happening all the time, but you know, you drive home a theme and you want to do it in a positive way, you can do that too. I mean, listen, I think if you've probably watched the Young Turks over the past, and I haven't very much because I've been working a lot over the past 4 months.
Yeah, I'm missing that much.
I'm betting. Well, I know that, but I'm betting that that you're going to have a lot of people that have that are going to go out and vote for Bernie Sanders in the primaries and caucuses, right? And so that is a positive effect if that's the effect they want to have. So Fox should own this because it's true. If you do this, somebody's going to crazily latch on to the hateful things that come out of there in very subtle and often very blatant ways and do something absolutely nuts. Yeah. And you know, I don't. It's not surprising. I think it's sad. It's a little funny, but it's not surprising.
No. So let me ask you a question because I mean, Donald Trump has not. Well, I have to mention Donald Trump.
That's okay. We're allowed to.
I mean, he's the master of this, and he is. So, to what extent, and in terms of harnessing the media, and that's the irony I found with that announcement that Palin, she was saying the mainstream media hate us, and yet they're the two key architects who have found out the elixir or the alchemy of harnessing the mainstream media to their great benefit. So, my question to you, I guess, is to what extent do you think the media ultimately will elect? Does elect?
Well, I mean, the media does elect. They do. I mean, and media does elect too. I mean, not just the people that report on it. If you know, John Kasich has spent an inordinate amount of money on ads in New Hampshire, and his numbers until today,
he's been in second place.
Well, today he slipped a little bit, but he's been in second place in 3 straight polls. So his ads have been all over. That's media too, and that's
true,
money and media. The media that cover the election certainly do that. I mean, and Donald Trump, but Donald Trump also gives acceptable and familiar voice to something that a lot of the people that support him sort of harbor, feelings that they harbor. You know, I went and covered a speech he gave actually here in L.A., and it was on a battleship, and it was before one of the debates. And across the way were a bunch of people that were protesting Trump, racist this, racist that. On the boat were the invited guests and the people who bought their tickets and whatnot, and the press. And they were, let's say, 70 yards away from where the people were sort of penned in who were protesting. And the vitriol and the ugliness that was coming from the boat toward those people was, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I'd never seen it so publicly displayed. I mean, really vicious things about immigrants. You know, it wasn't about black people. It was about immigrants and immigration. And here was this person who was the standard bearer for their ideas, talking about them, and they have somebody that will do that for them. So I don't think that you know, and people are going to follow, but I don't think that he is a creation of having sat home and watched Fox News. But he's a facilitator for those ideas.
He might have learned a few lessons from watching it about what might work.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure at some point he said that Bill O'Reilly's a loser. But I don't know that for a fact. But it's an interesting thing that happened. So and I don't know to what effect the media has to do, other than they give him a lot of time. But you know, they've paid him to give him time as well.
Right, and it's the legitimization that I have the issue with.
Exactly.
Of those, because it then gives legitimization to those toxic, unpleasant, irrational views. And
but often they build you up. Often they build you up and tear you down, though. And that's, you know, probably
we should get to
a
that
cycle
soon.
It'll happen, but then they'll build them up again, because once you build someone up, then you tear them down, then you create the sympathy for that person who's been torn out. Richard Nixon, to name one. I mean, foreign policy expert he became late in his life. Well,
really?
It's
and what it is about as much as its ratings. And I think that is you do the news cycle a disservice when it becomes about ratings, because then you, then the media entities, they have a very deliberate agenda.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I work at a network that couldn't care less about ratings, honestly, and blatantly say we don't care about ratings,
exactly.
and we're going out of business. So that's part of it.
Look, so this guy thankfully didn't commit any acts of violence. Hopefully will not commit any acts of violence. He's got depression and anxiety. He's got tons of problems, obviously. If you're watching Fox News for a full week, you probably do. And so many people will label him as just a mentally disturbed lone wolf, or would have been if he had committed the acts of violence, even though, again, it seems to be driven by ideology, religious opposition. And the thing is, many people would say, well, look, you're trying to put the onus on Fox to not cause even one of their millions of viewers to go crazy. And obviously that's an impossible standard for any organization. And theoretically, one of our viewers could go crazy someday. But I think that the difference is that to the extent that I can as an individual, look, we say things, but we don't try to purposefully propagate false narratives, hype up threats that don't actually exist. I mean, people who watch Fox and believe that ISIS is the biggest threat that the world has ever known are crazy people, but they're crazy people because they've been lied to by an organization they trust almost every hour on the hour for a couple of years now. And that's the problem. It's not just that you say things from your point of view and crazy people latch onto it. It's that you purposefully manipulate the emotions and fears of an obviously anxious and politically unstable country. We have enough people in our country. There are crazy people. Don't drive them even crazier if you can help it.
Right. It's like stepping into a beer hall in 1930s Germany.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, the parallels are only too abundant. I mean, it was just in a small way, but it really, I was left completely flummoxed when Marco Rubio earlier in the week said, I bought a gun at Christmas because I need to be the last line of defense.
Against ISIS.
Against ISIS.
So ISIS is going to break into the Rubio home, and there will be Marco with a gun, and then the problem will be solved.
As a response, if you're running for government, you're running for any elected position, aren't you supposed to calm my fears? Aren't you supposed to say, don't worry, you'll let me and I'll take care of it? No, he's saying, no, you need to be your own vigilante. That's how I'm taking care of it. What kind of, I mean...
But what about standing
Obama
back and saying, this guy's a moron? I mean, there's that too. Like, why can't you look at this candidate and say, how could somebody so dumb, with such a juvenile grasp of what protection is and gun laws are and Second Amendment is, why would you want them to leave? Well, apparently the people don't, and the Republicans don't either. I mean, he's wallowing. But
I get wanting to protect your family, but I worry if ISIS gunmen get in there. Like, he's got the gun, but what if he has to reload? What if he has to get a drink of water? Like, then his guard is down.
Right, that's true. And what if there are a few ISISes?
What if there are multiple ISIs?
ISIs.
Yeah.